Hi, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Numbers with Dave Bookbinder. This is the show that goes beyond the data to explore the people, the stories, the insights that really drive business success. I am Dave Bookbinder. I'm your host. I'm known as a business valuation expert and best-selling author, and I thank you for joining me today. I have a great guest for you today, gang. His name is Anthony Franco. He is managing partner at First Strategy, serial entrepreneur, AI strategist, co-author of AI First Principles and the Wiser Method, and in his spare time, he hosts a podcast called How to Founder. Anthony, welcome to Behind the Numbers.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. So I gave the audience a little bit of a thumbnail about who you are, but why don't you tell them the rest of the story about who you are?
Yeah, so I'm a serial entrepreneur. Started quite a few companies, exited 6 successfully. Now I'm on to my next thing, which is right now it's just participating in the AI space and caring very deeply about AI that is launched in an ethical, safe, and profitable way for organizations. That's the open source project that I'm working on, which is AI First Principles. And then the Wiser Method is essentially how do you put those principles into practice in organizations?
All right. Well, let's jump into it with, we'll call it your backstory, right? Your founder DNA. You built 7 companies. You exited 6 of them. What early experiences shaped the way you think about building value inside a business?
There's a lot of very interesting ideas around how to build value. There's nothing. It all boils down to something very simple: profitable revenue. Like that's it. Growing profitable revenue is the way you build value into organizations. Now you can do that. You can do that and really strive to serve people. That's not always how entrepreneurs operate. A lot of entrepreneurs operate so they're building value to line their pockets. That's the end of all of it. That's the end game for them. In my opinion, that's a short game. But yeah, it doesn't get any more simple than just your focus as an entrepreneur, as a founder. Your job is to grow profitable revenue.
Yeah, amen to that. Profitable revenue. Sales are great, but if you're not making the money on the sales, buyers and investors don't really care.
Exactly.
So, across those companies, did you see any patterns in businesses that scaled well versus ones that struggled?
Uh, did I see any patterns? So, yeah, yes. Mostly, let me think about that question because it's a really good question. The patterns really map to who you choose to bring on and who you choose to value as your team members. One, the more self-aware I became about what my strengths and weaknesses are, the better I was able to bring people on that can balance that. And 2, whenever I brought on a genius jackass, it never worked out. So culture, being hyper focused on culture actually has probably the biggest impact on that profitable revenue growth than anything else.
Well, the folks who have listened to this program for a while or know me know that that's what I write about and speak about, connecting the dots between culture and enterprise value. And you're spot on. One of the things that I discovered in my journey to prove that people are a company's most valuable asset, which I talk about in my first book, is a study that Harvard University did about, we'll call them toxic employees. And interestingly enough, you referred to the jackass geniuses. It's interesting that oftentimes the toxic employees are your best, most productive employees. The analogy I always use is in sports when you think about the diva wide receivers in the NFL, right? You can name them, Antonio Brown, Terrell Owens, blah, blah, blah. I hope they don't sue me for this. But it's been well known that they're great on the field, but not necessarily great locker room guys. And people put up with poor performance. And it's interesting that you highlighted that.
Yeah, there's a couple of different flavors of toxic employees. I'm sure you've talked about them, but one is that genius, that highly productive genius, that is also just mean. He's
Yeah.
just a mean. They're just a mean person. And I say he because most of the time it's a guy. Not always, but most of the time. And then there's another way that you can bring your company down, and that's allowing apathy to exist. People that just dial it in or just do the bare minimum to get through their day, because both of those traits are viruses within your company. If one person can just kind of um, do the bare minimum and still keep their job, then other people watch that behavior and believe it's acceptable and continue to let that grow. So those are the two things that I see that you need to get rid of as quickly as you possibly can. And by the way, I've failed at that. The only reason why I know that is because I've failed at it enough to recognize that's something you just can't fail at.
Yeah, and well said. I heard somebody kind of paraphrase that whole thing that you just said as your culture is what you tolerate. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a great way of putting it.
don't tolerate bad behavior. You can do better, people. I want to ask you about the work that you do with founders on exit readiness. Um, Talk about blind spots. Are there blind spots that business owners have when it comes to understanding what actually drives the value in the exit?
Um, I don't know if they're blind spots. Look, the basics really matter when you're exiting the business. What buyers like is simple. They're looking for I call it hair on it. Like if there's hair on the deal, there's hair on every deal, but the more hair, the less valuable it is. One example of that is your books aren't clean, right? So you're either mixing personal and business, or you're not really categorizing the right expenses into the right accounts. You're not closing your books on a regulated basis. You're not you're you're unsure of what every expense is, and that's something that I see kills deals all the time. Another one is heavy owner reliance. So
Mm,
if you don't have systems in place that so that the business can run smoothly without you, that's a high risk business to buy, which therefore means you're going to get a lower valuation. The other thing that is often referred to that isn't as significant as the other two is high customer concentration. So one customer being more than 20 or 30% of your revenue, that typically will get investors a little bit worried. And then the final one will be revenue variability. So 1 year you're up, next year you're down. 1 year you're up, next year you're down. That all of those things they're a double whammy. One, investors or buyers are going to be sketchy, and two, if your business is qualified for an SBA loan, the SBA doesn't like that either. So the SBA will lower your valuation. So no matter what the buyer may want to do, the SBA is not going to loan them the money to do it.
yeah, you highlighted some really, really great points, and those are things that I see pretty much all the time with the clients that I'm working with and that we're working with, whether on the valuation side or on the sell side M&A arena as well. And when you talk about customer concentration, it just reminded me of something. I had a valuation client not too long ago. 75% of the company's sales were attributable to one company. And
Mm.
the business owner thought, this is great. I can manage my business basically by keeping an eye on this one customer. And I had explained to him in the valuation analysis that concentration risk is actually very detrimental.
Yeah, think
So,
about it. You lose one client, you lose 75% of your business. That's what a buyer's looking at. Like,
yeah,
especially if that's what the owner is constantly looking at. The owner has the relationship, the buyer's really, or the customer is really has that relationship with that business owner. If the business owner leaves, the buyer's going to be thinking, wait a minute, if what am I buying here? Am I buying this relationship, and can I take that over, or am I buying the other 25% of the business?
yeah. And we could do a whole show on just those four things that you mentioned here on the
Yeah.
hairiness of transactions. The only other thing I'm just going to put an exclamation mark on is the business owner being the key person and not being able to walk away, and how that key person risk impacts valuation. I mentioned this before in this program. I was on a panel talking to a room full of business owners, and I actually asked that question: raise your hand if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, would your business go away? And most of the room raised their hand, and we had a conversation about what that impact meant. And there were a lot of surprised folks in that room. So thank you for sharing those things. One of the other
Yeah.
things that comes up a lot is regarding a sale is timing. Curious to know how you advise founders to determine when, quote, the right time is to sell. But what signals are you looking for?
I think this is such a personal question. Um, so there's market dynamics, right? So the last year and a half has been terrible for M&A, just terrible. Um, so there is market dynamics that really weigh into it. But a good business that check the boxes on those four things that we talked about, they're going to have lots of buyers interested in them. So then it becomes a factor of what is it for the owner to sell now? A lot of owners will think, why would I sell this business if it's, first of all, if it's self-operating and doesn't need you, has clean books, doesn't have high revenue concentration, and why would you be selling it? right? So there is this piece of it that is just like, I'm just going to pass it on to my kids. I'm not tired enough yet to pass it on. So oftentimes what happens is the owner becomes tired, and the business starts to atrophy, and then they decide they're going to sell it, and that's the wrong time to sell. So if you think you're going to retire and want to retire in 2 years, start now. Even though you still have the energy and it's still providing you value, the moment you feel like you could get to the point where you're just too tired to put the grind in, that's really, I think, the time to sell. And I would test that, right? I would also test that, but by walking away from the business for a month and seeing how it does, and then 3 months and seeing how it does. If you can do that and the business not only survives but thrives, then maybe it's something you don't need to sell. Maybe it's something you can have as a legacy business and only check in with every quarter. That would be really rare, by the way. I don't know of many businesses that operate that way, but it does happen. Other than that, it really is about, can you continue to put this grind in for another 5 years? If the answer is yes, you're great. If the answer is no, then you need to start looking at your options at the very least.
Yeah, and folks out there listening and heeding that advice, just remember, as I always tell you, the exit is not just a transaction; it's a process. It's about getting yourself ready and cleaning up those books, because too many business owners are running some things through the P&L that probably don't belong there, and it's important to get those add backs done early and often.
Yeah, to those SBA, to those folks that might be selling to buyers that use SBA, if you write it off on your taxes, that your tax returns are what the SBA values your business as. So they're not going to value your business as what the P&L is you present them. They're just going to look at your tax return. So if you're writing off a bunch of business stuff, a bunch of personal stuff like your car and business trips off on your taxes, that does have a negative impact to your enterprise value if SBA is an avenue that your buyers are going to take.
Yeah, well said. I want to talk to you about the Wiser method, which you helped create. So, for the folks who are listening here, tell us what it is, how it helps leaders uncover actionable insights faster.
Yeah, so if I can, before we talk about the Wiser method, I'd like to talk about AI first principles, because one informs the other.
Sure.
AI first principles it's just aifirstprinciples.org. It's an open source framework built on essentially more than a decade of crafting solutions for enterprises to make their operations run more efficiently. And then building on top of that, how do you do that with AI? And it started with me with one of my consulting clients, a company called OneReach, that is the leader in enterprise AI. They build systems to automate certain processes for large enterprises. And what I did is I looked at how they deliver and how they operate, and just started writing down their principles. And I went to the CEO and I said, "This is how you guys operate. This is really strong. I want to go talk to other folks and open source these principles." And he agreed. So it's built on 40 plus contributors, big names in the AI space, just on the things that you need to consider when you want to start automating your business. And then from there, I decided the principles are great, but they're not. Putting them into motion is difficult. It's like, okay, so these are great. I need to operate and live by these principles, but how do you put those principles into action? And the wiser method is a system by which, and I'm building some training courses around it and some content around the wiser method to essentially teach how to put those principles into practice.
Yeah, and there's so much noise around AI right now. Some positive, some negative, everything, both ends of the spectrum.
Let's get
From
into it.
Yeah, so from your vantage point, what's a good realistic first step that a mid-market, lower mid-market company should take to incorporate AI without chasing the hype?
Well, I mean, the gateway into AI, it is probably the simplest entry point that has ever existed in technology. It's Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini. It's a chatbot, and you start using AI not to make decisions for you, but as a thought partner, as a collaborator. So the very first thing, a lot of enterprises, a lot of big enterprises are actually incentivizing their employees to use AI. They're getting them the tool that makes the most sense for their enterprise, and just allowing people and paying for people to use AI in their day-to-day job. Some companies I've even heard of, they're bonusing their employees on the use of AI in the business. That should tell you a lot, because that means bigger enterprises are recognizing the value of just using a chatbot in your day-to-day business. Then there's a next level where you start. So using AI in chatbots, I think the term is, it's copy and paste. You're basically becoming a slave to the AI, because you're copying out of ChatGPT and into your email, or copying out of ChatGPT and building documents or proposals. The next level is starting to automate some of that stuff. And the one tool that I've found that does a pretty good job of that is a developer tool, that which may intimidate some folks because it feels like you're now a coder. But it's the tool is called Cursor. You just go to cursor.com and download it. And it takes that chatbot experience and starts saving and interacting with files that are on your computer. So yes, you can write code with it. It's what a lot of people use to quote unquote vibe code in AI. But you can also create documents, written documents, social posts, and you can have it have memory, so it can remember who you are and remember to write in your voice with your rules. So it's a fairly powerful tool if set up correctly.
Yeah,
And then you get into something where then you graduate when you're using it on your desktop. Well, how do you propagate that to the entire organization? Then you're talking about a tool like OneReach, where you can now take that cursor mentality and embed it into the operations of your organization.
help us calibrate the we'll call it the emotional pull of AI. As I mentioned, there's fear, there's optimism. It's here. It's not going away. It's only going to get better. And I personally feel like if you're not going to get on the train, you're going to be left at the station holding the bag. But so what do you say to the folks out there who are not embracing AI and are living in fear of it, that it's going to replace their jobs and it can't be trusted and so forth?
Well, so if you're not using AI because because you're afraid it's gonna take your job, then it's gonna take your job. The people that are going to keep their jobs are the ones that are very proficient in using AI. AI is a force multiplier. Period. It allows me to operate as a team of 10 people. Does that mean I've replaced 10 jobs? No, actually, it means I'm 10 times more productive as an individual. So when you hear Elon Musk talk about the age of abundance, what he's talking about is one person is going to be able to do 10 times the work. Does that mean that there's less work to be done? Or does that mean that we're all going to be able to produce more and create more value for humanity? I think it's the latter. There's also something like people, I'm on the fence on this. I tend to say AI is not going to take jobs. It will take some jobs. It'll eliminate some jobs. And by the way, there's some jobs that we want to eliminate. Do you want chemotherapy technicians to have a job in 5 years, or do you want cancer to be cured?
Great question.
So I want cancer to be cured. I don't want those people to have a job. I want them to do something. I want them to have a job. I don't want them to have that job. So I think the jobs that we want eliminated because we've solved the problem, that's a good thing for us. That's a good thing for all of humanity. Another thing is, so I put it, AI First Principles puts it this way: AI is not coming for jobs; it's coming for the bureaucracy that makes work miserable. And I think that's a really good rallying cry about what AI is really going to do for us over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and I like the way you described it as a force multiplier. I couldn't agree with you more. I'm using AI in a number of ways, and I've been told to treat it like an eager intern. When someone would give you research, trust but verify. So,
Yeah,
but
100%. Yes, you cannot let AI do the work for you. You have to be. It's so weird. It like has the intelligence of a goldfish, but the writing capabilities of a college graduate. It's such a weird paradigm, and the only way to really understand is to really engage and start using it every day to help you in your job. And it doesn't even have to help you in your job. So I've used ChatGPT as to role play an argument with my wife. So I told ChatGPT, "You're my wife. Here's the argument we're having. Argue with me so I don't have to argue with her." And turns out she was right. but it can be that kind of collaborator with you. It can give you tests. It can quiz you on stuff. You can explore ideas with you without the risk of looking like a fool.
yeah.
Use it in that way before you start actually creating content with it, and you'll get a good sense of what it's good at and what it's not.
Yeah, that's a great point. I literally just this past week was using it in a similar context, not to flesh out an argument with my wife, but trying to kind of game a conversation with a client. And it was if
Yeah.
this, then that. And the big questions I kept asking it was, what are my blind spots? What am I missing? What could they counter with? And it was a fascinating iteration with that. So definitely recommend dipping
The
your toes in that water if you haven't already, gang.
the true talent in AI becomes going beyond asking it one or two sentence questions. So the goal should be, as you're getting into it, making your prompts longer. I have prompts that are 700 lines.
Wow.
And I have other prompts that are like 300 lines each, but they reference one another, so it's thousands of lines long. And not that you need to get to that level, but where AI fails most is when it can't. Essentially, people believe that it has telepathy, like it can decipher from your brain what you mean, and it can't. So the question that you ask it, you understand all the context and background from that question. ChatGPT doesn't. So the more context and understanding you can give it, the more prescriptive you can be about, here's the problem space, here's how I want you to think about it, here's here's how you check whether or not your answers are correct. Here's your objective, here's what you need to come up with. The longer your prompts get, the better the answers are going to be for you.
Yeah. Really good stuff. I aspire one day to have a 300-line prompt.
Well, so you can ask ChatGPT to write the prompt for you. Say, write me a prompt that creates a digital twin of myself, so it creates content. And then after that sentence, say, ask me as many questions as you need in order to write that prompt correctly.
Wow.
And it'll write the prompt for you. After it asks you a series of questions, and then you go in and read the prompt and edit the prompt itself. Now you have a piece of material that you can use over and over and over again when you're writing content. So there actually is not a better tool to write a prompt than the LLMs themselves.
That is a great tip. Thank you for sharing that. Getting close to the end here, but I want to make sure we talk about a couple more important things here. And that's first one is the How to Founder podcast. Tell the audience a little bit about that, how you got involved with it, what we can learn from it, where we can find it.
Well, Dave, I think the podcasting, as you know, is a great way for me to make a ton of money. That's a joke.
Good. I know it's a joke. I'm laughing. So ton of money podcast. You're right. It's right up there with book sales.
Yeah, exactly right. No, so how to found. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, and one of the things, and I'm very active in the entrepreneurial community here in Colorado. And one of the things I've noticed is that the number one thing that entrepreneurs all suffer from is loneliness. Being an entrepreneur is really lonely. Nobody understands you. Nobody understands outside of other entrepreneurs. The second thing is that entrepreneurs don't talk to other entrepreneurs enough. And what that means is we're solving the same problems over and over again individually. So my friend Chris might know something that I don't and has solved the problem, but I'm solving it for the first time. And why aren't we talking about that? So How to Founder is basically, we pick a single topic that entrepreneurs care about. For example, what do you do when an employee steals from you? How do you balance your books? How do you read a balance sheet? We pick one topic that entrepreneurs should know about. Some of them are basic. Some of them are like, cultural. Some of them are operational. And we just dive deep for 45 minutes. And we strive to make entrepreneurship less lonely. We tell really bad dad jokes, and we cover a topic and deep dive on a topic. And we're 160 episodes in. We go live, so it's not polished or edited. It's warts and all. You see us, you see the podcast for what it is every time. There's been some gaffes in it for sure. And it's kind of a little bit of a labor of love. We just do it because we love entrepreneurs, and eventually it might become a book eventually, or it just might be something that so I do it with 3 other people, me, Chris, and Steph. We rotate hosting the show and bring on guests. So sometimes the 3 of us just chat about a subject. It's great fun. Howtofounder.com is the website, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn there, or you can follow the podcast or read the blog, which we have a blog for every episode.
That's really cool. Good stuff. Keep on doing that. I remember my early days, and it's just hysterical now to think that I'm more than 300 episodes in. So yeah. Keep doing your thing. People are showing up and they're listening. They're getting great value. One more thing I want to make sure I talk about, because Shark Tank is a show, as I tell people, that made what I do sexy because they brought the word valuation into the living rooms of America. You were on Shark Tank and you worked with Mr. Wonderful. Tell us what that was really like, and did it have any impact on your mindset?
Well, I don't want to ruin his reputation, but Kevin O'Leary is actually a really good guy.
Oh no.
I know. I'm really
Oh
sorry to
no.
destroy everybody's opinion of him. So all of the companies that he's actually so first of all, some numbers for you: 40,000 companies a year try out for Shark Tank. 2,000 companies make it to like what they call a deep dive. So the producers will deep dive and do background checks, etc. 180 fly out to the studio a year. 120 film their episode. 80 air. 40 strike a deal on air. 20 close a deal.
Wow.
It's really rare.
Wow.
So whatever 20 divided by 40,000 is, it's really rare. I was fortunate enough to be one of the ones that actually inked a deal with the shark, Kevin O'Leary, who was the last person I think I thought I was going to ink a deal with. And every entrepreneur that's ever worked with him loves him. Like, I haven't met a Kevin O'Leary entrepreneur that didn't think he was a great guy.
Wow, that's a real busted myth for sure. But a couple of the interesting things there is the odds that there's low percentage of folks that actually make it to the tank and get funded. And then even when you talk about, you see they make a deal on TV, they don't close. So the message there is, talk a little bit just briefly about what happens between we have a deal on the air and why they don't close. Where do the deals go sideways?
Well, so a lot of people think like the sharks have like a dossier sitting in front of them, and they look at the businesses coming up, and they have due diligence. They have a due diligence packet. And so when they're making a deal, they're making an informed decision on to invest in the company. That's not the case. Actually, I think that would break FTC law. Shark Tank is operated under game show law. So it's treated like a game show. You're known as a Shark Tank contestant and a Shark Tank winner, ironically enough. When a shark, when Kevin takes a look at a company, he has maybe 30 minutes to make a decision on whether or not this company wants to invest in. And he has to do his homework after that. What if the entrepreneur's on the air lying to him? What if it tanks? What if the company is tanking like months after you air? And due diligence takes, as you know, a while to go through that process. So those investors need to understand really what they're investing in. And is it also, they have a reputation to uphold, right? Is it on brand for them? Are they aligning themselves with an entrepreneur that's not a good guy or gal? So they have to do their homework on the organizations. That's why the close, I think their close rate is pretty damn high. If all investors closed half of the deals they signed an LOI with, that would be a huge close percentage. But that's generally what the sharks do, because the producers do some really good background check and homework check for them in the beginning as well.
Interesting stuff. Thank you for sharing. We're at the end of the program here, and this went really, really quickly. But you mentioned a little bit before about the How to Founder site. What's the best way for people to find you, connect with you, if they want to learn more about you or work with you?
Well, so for AI, go to aifirstprinciples.org. If they want to connect with me, just go to howtofounder.com. My LinkedIn profile's there. So you can just click on my ugly picture there and connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to chat with you about anything that we talked about, or if you want to talk about Seinfeld episodes or dad jokes, I'm happy to do that too.
Yeah, and be sure, folks, to reach out to Anthony and tell him it's not an ugly mugshot. His self-esteem could really use that. If you know, you know. Anthony, thanks so much for joining me today on Behind the Numbers. It was a lot of fun having you here.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
All right, and thank you out there for tuning in to Behind the Numbers. As I always say, if you enjoyed the episode, please take a moment, leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. That stuff actually really does move the needle. And of course, don't forget to crush that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Until next time, I'm Dave Bookbinder, reminding you that the numbers tell the story, but the people bring it to life. Take care, everybody.